What's up, my friends? Welcome to New View Tech Review. My name is David Gelly, and before we get started, I want to quickly welcome all the new subscribers. That's right, I see you guys. Thank you so much for joining the crew. And today we are reviewing the Google Pixel 2 XL. So, to be honest, of all the phones that I had the option of reviewing this year since starting my channel in September, the Google Pixel 2 was the one I was the least excited about. But after reviewing this unit for the past 3 weeks, I'm actually kicking myself for not testing it out sooner. There's a lot to like about this phone, much more than I expected. But is the Pixel 2 XL worth your hard-earned money? Let's dig in and find out. Starting off with the display, Google managed to give us something that's great on paper, but with everyday use, most find it to be extremely underwhelming. The Pixel 2 XL has a 6-inch Quad HD POLED full-screen display with a pixel density of 538. In comparison, the Note 8 has a PPI of 521 and is considered to have one of the best displays on the market, if not the best. So what's going on here? How could the Pixel 2 XL boast such good specs, yet have a display that so many people dislike? Well, there are several things at play here. The main problem that most Pixel 2 users are reporting is a blue tint that you can see when viewing the phone at an angle. This is something that occurs in all OLED displays, with some being more noticeable than others. I've tested this myself, and sure enough, there is a blue color shift that occurs when slightly tilting the phone at an angle, but personally, I don't care one bit since I don't hold my phone like a psychopath when I'm using it. The other issue that consumers have noticed is burn-in, which is known to occur on OLED displays. But this is something that Google has already addressed in a software update and shouldn't affect the majority of units from here on out. The last thing that people have complained about is the lack of saturation that the display produces. Samsung is notorious for boosting their colors to give us bright and vivid screens, which looks really good, but not entirely natural or accurate. This is something that Google tried to combat by giving users a more true-to-life, natural tone display. And I've actually ended up preferring this to the oversaturated Samsung look. I find myself wanting to watch videos on the Pixel 2 far more often than on my more expensive iPhone X, which also uses an OLED panel. But if you really like those boosted colors, then Google gives you the option in settings to slightly increase saturation. My only complaints would be that the display is pretty dim even at max brightness, and the bezels.
My God, look at those monsters.
Now, of course, they needed larger bezels to include those front-facing speakers, which we'll touch on more later, but with 2017 being the year of full-screen displays, this just ended up looking a little too out of place. So, with all that being said, and despite my minor complaints, I ended up loving this display far more than I thought I would. It's on par with the Note 8 in terms of sharpness, and the natural tones provide us with a refreshing take on an OLED display. Alright, enough about the display. Let's talk about that unique Pixel 2 design. This is a look that leaves many Pixel fans as divided as the colors on the back of this device, and I completely understand why. You either love it or you hate it. As for myself, I've grown to tolerate it. This is pretty much the same design as we saw on the original Google Pixel, and I'm not sure why they ended up keeping it. Though this second generation looks slightly better than the first, it's still not enough to win me over in this category. Now, around the border of the device where the screen connects to the back panel, there happens to be a fairly large edge that surrounds the entire phone, which makes for an easier grip, but also makes the design feel kind of cheap and less than desirable. On the back of the phone, you'll find the extremely responsive fingerprint scanner, which I find to be an odd place to put a biometric sensor, especially since most of us place our phones down with the screen facing up. But it does make sense when you factor in Google's decision to include a full screen display. And as long as we're talking about the fingerprint scanner, I should add that it also doubles as a reachability tool, similar to what you'll find on iPhones. You can just simply swipe down on the sensor to easily access your notifications panel. You can enable this in settings under gestures. On the edges of the device, Google included a new feature that we've seen on some of the latest HTC devices, Active Edge. This feature allows you to literally squeeze the sides of the phone to activate Google Assistant. Now, I could see this being a useful feature if you could customize its functionality, but unfortunately it cannot be remapped to do anything else. The only thing that you can customize is the amount of pressure needed to activate Google Assistant. On the right side of the device, you'll find the power and volume buttons. This placement decision makes for some accidental volume changes and screen blackouts. Visually, the two are clearly distinguishable, but it's the lack of texture on the power button that creates this issue, a simple fix that easily could have been implemented. As for dimensions, the phone stands 6.2 inches tall by 3 inches wide and weighs 6.2 ounces. The housing is an aluminum unibody, making the phone water and dust resistant at a rating of IP67, meaning your Pixel 2 will survive those occasional accidental drops into the toilet. Unfortunately, the Pixel 2 XL only comes in 2 colors, while the smaller model comes in 3. Ah, yes. Let's talk about those front-facing speakers. I've loved front-facing speakers ever since I bought the HTC One M7, and so much so that I stuck with HTC all the way through the HTC 10. But now other companies are picking up on this and starting to focus their attention on audio. This is great since it will create more competition in this area and make for better sound quality in our phones. Google is one of those companies that decided to implement better audio into their devices. The Pixel 2 XL comes with 2 front-facing stereo speakers and can get up to 84 decibels. This makes for an awesome experience while watching videos, listening to music, and playing games. Sadly, the actual speakers that sit under the grills really aren't the best quality. They sound thin and definitely lack some bass output, as you can see in this frequency sample, but for what they are, being speakers on a smartphone, they get the job done. Now, regarding the Pixel 2's performance, I'm happy to report that it delivers iPhone-like speeds, and with Google using pure stock Android, you won't have all that annoying bloatware to bog down your device. The Pixel 2 XL houses Qualcomm's latest 835 CPU, along with 4 GB of RAM, and runs off of Android 8.0 Oreo. This combination of great specs paired with stock Android makes for a buttery smooth UI experience that you will definitely enjoy. If you're looking for an SD card slot, you won't find one here. The Pixel 2 comes in 2 storage sizes, 64 and 128 GB, but with unlimited photo and video storage in Google Photos, you shouldn't have to worry too much about storage space. As for the system's taptic motor, Google uses advanced X-axis haptics to create a sharper, more defined response. It's definitely nowhere near as good as Apple's Taptic Engine, but it's probably the most responsive Android that I've used as far as taptic motors go. When it comes to cameras, Google really knows how to bring their A game. DxOMark gave the Pixel 2 XL a score of 98, setting a new record for overall best camera on a smartphone. The rear camera contains a 12 megapixel sensor with an f1.8 aperture, as well as OIS. Video can be recorded in 4K at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 30, 60, and 120 frames per second, and 720p all the way up to 240 frames per second. As for the front camera, we get an 8 megapixel sensor with an f2.4 aperture and can record 1080p video at 30 frames per second. Most manufacturers nowadays will do their best to include 3 cameras in their flagships, usually implementing 2 on the back that work together to give us a nice bokeh effect in our photos. But you won't find that here on the Pixel 2 XL. Google uses only 1 camera and the software to give us that nice blurry background effect, and during my testing, I found it to work incredibly well, especially for not using dual cameras. Even the front-facing camera can snap high-quality bokeh images, and for the most part, it works better than most smartphones with rear dual camera setups. Oh, and a quick tip. Double-click the power button to jump right into the camera from any screen. A quick way to capture those unexpected moments. Moving over to battery, we find a massive 3,520 mAh cell in the Pixel 2. With that being said, I wish I could tell you that this phone has excellent battery life, but I would just be lying. With little to no usage, you can get about a day and a half on a single charge, but once you get up to moderate to heavy usage, that's when you'll see the battery drain much faster. Most people should be able to get through a full day without an extra charge, which is good, but nothing impressive. However, Google does give you a fast charger in the box to give you that extra juice when you need it most. Apple. And I do have to give props to Google for doing a fantastic job at optimizing their software and their hardware to give us really good standby time, probably second best only to iPhones in this field. Now, bringing us back around to the design, we of course have that aluminum build, making this phone incapable of wireless charging, and to me that seems a bit strange as that's just becoming more of a standard these days. But I guarantee you that we'll see wireless charging on the Pixel 3. If Google waits any longer, I think you'll see some disappointed fans possibly move on from the Pixel lineup. Finally, we've come to that big question. Is this device worth a buy? Yes. If you love stock Android, then this is definitely the smartphone for you. It's very fast and responsive, has the best camera on the market, front-facing stereo speakers, a great display, and to top it off, it's right around $850. For what you get, and being a couple $100 less than some of the other top-tier phones, it's definitely worth the money. This brings me to the question of the day. What are your thoughts on the Google Pixel 2 XL, and is it worth your money? Let me know in the comments section down below. Alright my friends, that's all I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Pixel 2 XL. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.